façon finir plus tard que prévu pour cette présentation Neos. Alors, on va faire une petite intervention donc, de B-Link, qui est un de nos sponsors. Donc Hervé Vigal va prendre la parole pendant quelques minutes. Et puis je crois qu'il est aussi à la recherche de compétences typo 3, donc c'est le moment ou jamais, puisqu'il y a pas mal de monde dans la salle. Peut-être des gens intéressés. Merci.
C'est très gentil, merci. Je ne vais pas vous prendre très longtemps. Effectivement, on est dans le mouvement typo 3 depuis pas mal de temps et on continue à le soutenir et à se développer autour de cet outil. Et on est actuellement à la recherche de deux typo 3 de bon niveau, enfin surtout un de bon niveau, un peut être plus débutant. Je ne sais pas si mon micro marche. Donc n'hésitez pas à m'adresser vos CV, les CV de vos amis qui cherchent à travailler dans une agence qui est très impliquée dans Typo 3. Mon adresse email, si vous voulez la noter, parce que j'ai pas de présentation, c'est h.bigal, B-I-G-A-L, @blink, donc B-E-L-I-N-K, -interactive.com. Voilà, et puis on serait très heureux de regarder tous les CV qui nous arrivent. Je ne vous dérange pas plus longtemps et je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, et je voulais donc aussi annoncer la petite nouvelle que m'a annoncé Mathieu tout à l'heure. Il est fort possible que B-Link aussi s'occupe de la mise à jour du serveur, du forum Typo 3 pendant l'été en tant que sponsor. Donc merci beaucoup, puisqu'il va y avoir tout le travail non pas de la licence qui est déjà payée, mais de migration et de refonte des templates, c'est quand même pas rien, et de récupération des contenus. On en avait bien besoin, puisque là, vous avez vu, on a dû bloquer les inscriptions à cause des robots qui arrivaient à passer les CAPTCHA. Voilà, donc merci beaucoup. Christian, je te redonne la parole. Et je vais relancer le direct.
Okay, the batteries. Okay, so battery is dead, so I will use. Does it work? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I will keep it very close to my mouth, which looks kind of stupid, but. Okay, let's go to the TypoScript section of our Neos technical talk. And also here I want to start with a bit of a retrospective. Once upon a time, there was a guy, and a short story about TypoScript. Actually, it's a story about me, because it's a story how I came to TypoScript. It was my first Typo 3 website, I don't know, 11 years ago or something, and I was part of a team of people that organized a big event for free, and we had a design student in our team, and he designed an awesome website for that time. He had 3 different designs, because the event had different parts, and for every part he had a different design. It had 2 languages, and lots and lots of functionality. And so I was saying, okay, we could do static HTML pages here, but it's like a lot of static HTML pages, and if you want to change something, it's going crazy. So we need a CMS for this project somehow. And I started investigating into different open source CMS, because obviously we didn't have a budget, it was all for free, so it should be some free system, and it should fulfill all these needs, the designs, the languages. And I tried different kinds of CMS, and I came to Typo 3, and it seemed nice. It seemed to do all the things we needed. But when it came to TypoScript, it was like so. I looked at the first examples, at the first tutorials, and it felt like I would never manage to create this website. But it had all the options we needed for the website. And I managed to do this website. It took quite some time, and looking back, I must say the code was ugly. It was crazy. It was like 4,000 lines of TypoScript all in the root template. You all know this kind of project. But it worked. I mean, it did everything we wanted, and it was amazing how that could work out with TypoScript. So TypoScript in Typo 3 CMS, it's very flexible. It allows you to do lots and lots of things with your content, with your website, with your rendering. You can access the database records, your content, you can use templates, you can use it in your extensions. So it's really a unique point of Typo 3, and I felt that this is always one of the selling points of Typo 3, to have TypoScript, because it makes the whole rendering of the website so flexible if you learn it. You can, in TypoScript, you can render not only your website, you can render XML, you can render CSV file, all kinds of data you can do with TypoScript. But also it has some problems. It's not really extensible. You have the default TypoScript objects, but if you want to have a new TypoScript object, today it's easier, but a few years ago it was like impossible to add new TypoScript objects to the existing ones. The syntax, we have seen the example. It's crazy. You have too many options, and the syntax is just different because it grow over time, so there were different naming schemes, different people adding options with different ideas about the naming of options. So it's a big, it works, but it's a big mess from the outside to use it. And it's really difficult to learn it for a newcomer. So TypoScript in Neos. We wanted to keep the flexible content rendering, because that's what TypoScript is about. Otherwise we could have just left TypoScript out of Neos and say, okay, you have your fluid template, do whatever you want. But there are applications where you need something like TypoScript, which you can't work out in a fluid template. Think about different page types. I don't know how many of you have used page types in Typo 3 CMS. Maybe you can raise a hand just to see. 1, 2, 3, okay. Not that many. So in Typo 3 CMS, you can use the type num option for a page to define different page types. And each page type can have totally different rendering for your website. So you can have one rendering with a normal HTML template and one rendering with an XML template, for example. And something like this is not really useful in a fluid template. So at that point, you need a higher level to configure how your rendering should work. And that's where TypoScript comes into play. So it still uses templates, fluid templates, and we actually use fluid templates everywhere. So when we come to the next section with the code, the actual code examples, you will see that, for example, a menu in Neos, there is a menu TypoScript object, but all the rendering happens in a fluid template. So you don't have the all wrap and inner standard wrap and outer standard wrap and whatever wrap to create your menu structure with LE and UL and whatever you need. But you just change the fluid template. So that makes it easier to adjust the rendering also for just front-end designers that have fluid knowledge, but no knowledge about PHP, about TypoScript maybe. And we have this limited set of objects. I told you already yesterday, but let's quickly go over this. We try to reduce the amount of objects, which is possible due to using templates for everything. So the main building block is a template TypoScript object. We have a case object to define different rendering cases. We have an array that is like a COA to combine multiple different TypoScript objects into one. Then we have a collection to render a group of objects, nodes normally, so you can render all your content elements. And we have the value object, it's like the text element. Basically that's it. That's the main building blocks. We will see in the default TypoScript that I will show you in the next area what kind of objects we also define and how you define your own objects, because it's very easy to add new objects to the TypoScript. And we also added the option to simply override everything. You can override everything in the rendering, in the default rendering. And not only that, but you can also override the rendering on any level in your website. So the TypoScript for us is also a structure. You can override the default rendering for the image element just for the right content column. So if you say, okay, my right content column is smaller than the main column, the maximum size for the image element in the side column is just 100 pixels. You can configure that very easily. You can even say, okay, if I have an image element in a two-column element in the right sidebar, then it should only be 50 pixels. So it's very granular and very simple to override the rendering at any point in your structure. And then we have processors. The processors might be replaced because we are thinking they are not really useful. But currently we have them, and the processors can modify your content. It's a bit like a standard wrap. So I don't know if you can read it. Otherwise, we will see an example later in the code section too. So I have a title, some title, and I apply a processor here. The number is up to you. You can start by 1. You can start with 10. The number defines the ordering. You can have multiple processors on one property. You define the order by giving the numbers. So it's not like in standard web where the order is defined by the internal rendering. You can use the same processor multiple times. So this is a wrap processor. It puts something before and after the property. So you could use 2 wraps, 3 wraps, 4 wraps, as much as you want. There are also processors for converting to integers, for cropping, all the basic manipulation of content that you have in standard web 2. Why we think this is not very useful or important is, of course, we tried Neos with our own websites and with the conference websites, and we almost never use the processors because you always use a fluid template, and in the fluid template you have view helpers, which make it much easier to do cropping and wrapping, and also much more intuitive. I mean, why should I wrap a title here when I use it in a template? I can just write title in the template. It's easier for the integrators that work with the templates if they later change the template, because they understand, okay, here's the title and here is the wrap, the tag around it. So there are very few places we actually use the processors. We still think there are few options where you need something like a processor, but we think we will integrate those few options, like converting something to an integer or calculating something, into EEL. Because then you just have one syntax to do the things instead of 2 different syntaxes. So processors, you know they are there, but you also know they might go in 1.0. So just you have seen it. So how to extend TypoScript? You can use TypoScript for your own applications. It's not only for Neos. It also works for Flow applications standalone. There is someone who can tell you about it. He's very happy about that. So it's really nice to have a more abstract way of defining your application rendering. If you have an application with many smaller modules that need to work together, TypoScript is the way to go to easily combine the different modules into one common view. And you can implement custom TypoScript objects. I will show you the examples. You can not only extend from existing modules, but you can also write PHP code to enable functionality in TypoScript that is not existing yet. So I have started this demo application. I'm not sure if I have a working installation right now because it was just a side project of mine to explore how TypoScript can be used. It should become something like a shop, a simple shop, and the idea is here that I have domain model of categories, of shop categories, and I used TypoScript to render this menu of shop categories. So I implemented a custom menu for TypoScript that works with my own domain model to render a menu in a fluid template, of course. And I can add processors, my custom processing implementation, but as I said, the processes might go, so we won't stay long with it. It's pretty easy to do that, but not very needed. Let's go to the embedded expression language, EEL. That's one of the major things we think make TypoScript and Neos very easy if you understand it, but it's easy to understand for front-end developers because it's based on jQuery mostly. The ideas are based on jQuery. So EEL is a domain-specific language we developed to work with the content in Neos, but it can be extended and used in all kinds of ways for other configuration. We use the parsing expression grammar for the developers. If you have need of a custom domain language for configuration or something, check out this project. It's a PHP pack on GitHub. It enables you to write a syntax for a new language, and it creates a parser for it for you in PHP. And that's what we did with EEL. We extended the created parser a bit, but in the end, it's this project that enabled us to create EEL. So it's very cool. Yeah, it has, as I said, the jQuery-like syntax. And the idea is that you have seen the node repository is a structure of nodes. It's a tree structure. And if you think about the DOM in a website, it's also a tree structure. Very clear tree structure of nodes. They are also called nodes, all the tags. And jQuery makes this tree structure accessible for you in JavaScript. So you can access one specific node by its name, by its ID. And from there on, you can traverse. You can go to the parent, to the children. You can get information from that node, like the attributes, the ID, the classes, whatever. And we wanted to have the same for the node repository because it's also a tree-like structure. So you can address a specific node, and from there get the parents, get the children, get information about the node, the title, the text inside the node, whatever you have inside your node, you can access it with this syntax. It can also work with collections, just like in jQuery. So you can not only get one node, but you can get a collection of nodes. So you can say, I want to have all the child nodes of my main content section, which basically is the content in the main section. And that's what we actually use ourselves to render the content. Okay. As I said, you can use traversal to go up and down in the tree structure of the node repository. And again, as a side note, also EEL is working outside of Neos too, of course. You can use it again for your custom Flow applications. And we start to use it ourselves now in Flow. You can use the traversal and the object access to traverse domain models too. If your domain models have a tree-like structure with parent and children, you can use EEL and access the structure inside of EEL. Okay, so what can I use EEL for? Accessing objects is the basic stepping stone to use EEL. So this is an example out of TypoScript. We want to assign this variable root category to a template, and this is just the information for TypoScript. Okay, here starts EEL. It's not really part of EEL, but it's for TypoScript to say, here I want to use EEL. And then we access a variable inside EEL that is called top level category. This variable must be there, of course, and usually in Neos website you have a few predefined variables. You have the current node, that is the page you are rendering currently, inside EEL, so you can access the current node. and you can access the base node of your website, so the root of your website. So this is another example of accessing objects from a different way of using EEL, not inside TypoScript. And this is an operation. We ask the active category for its children, and we filter them by the name children. So we want to have all children that are named children. You can skip the filter, then you get all children, of course. And you can have comparisons. So I say, okay, I want from the active category, I want all children that are called children, and I check if the count is greater than 0. So do I have a child that is called children? And I can filter objects. That's what you already saw in the children operation. Like this, I can say, okay, my categories I filter, and I want to have only categories that have the property hidden set to 0. Yes?
Just a question. I didn't understand still where exactly, on which level we are using EEL. Because as I understood, actually now we have TypoScript, PHP.
I think it makes more sense when I show you the actual template for the demo website we have, because there you see how it works together. I will do in the next section. I will show you how the demo website we have for Neos works. I will show you the TypoScript and the EEL and everything, and there you see how it works together.
So it's an additional level.
You use EEL inside of TypoScript.
Inside of
yes.
TypoScript.
So like I don't know, like a constant. Like you say, okay, at this place I want to use a constant in CMS.
Some form of expression which
yes.
we use inside TypoScript.
Exactly.
So we could say what EEL it's extending of TypoScript. It's just some additional syntax.
Yes, but it's two separate things. I mean, they work separately. You can use TypoScript without EEL, of course, but you can also use EEL outside of TypoScript if you want. So it's
in PHP.
Yes, in PHP or in custom configuration you have. Currently it's not yet merged in the core of Flow, but in the future you might be able to have a configuration file for Flow and have an EEL expression inside the configuration, and it will be passed. Okay. So you can say, I want to have this configuration option enabled if my request is for the dev domain, for example, something like this.
Okay.
Okay, then that's about TypoScript and EEL. As I said, I think it makes more sense if you see the code in the end. Let's quickly talk about the plugin system. Plugins in Neos are Flow applications. So every Flow application you write, Flow is stable. We are going to the 2.0 soon. So every Flow application you write now, you can later use as a plugin in Neos. To do so, the only thing needed is configuration. You configure Neos to know which kind of controller and action from your Flow package you want to use. And this is then available as a plugin in Neos. So it's very simple to create new plugins. That also means that any Flow application that is available open source, you can at the same time use as a Neos plugin in the future. For example, I made a simple RSS feed renderer for Flow that you enter or you configure a feed URL, and it renders the feed with a Fluid template. And you can use the same feed renderer as a plugin in Neos to render the feed in Neos. So this is the example plugin on the demo website. It's just a simple registration plugin to create a new backend user. It was for the demo website, so anyone could use the demo website and create his own backend user, basically. The plugins work quite well, and we are currently tweaking a few details about the plugins. For example, dynamic configuration options, because in plugins you usually want to configure things on a dynamical base. Like I want to, my plugin needs to know which domain model I need to show in this plugin. And this needs to be dynamically selected from the database. That's something we are working on. You can have configuration for plugins already now, but it's static configuration. Like you could say, I want to display 1, 2, or 3 options, or I want to paginate every 20, every 30, something like that is already possible. So the idea about Flow and Neos is that they work side by side with other applications, and you can connect it together on a very low level, and you can also separate it again if needed. As it's just configuration in Neos, you can remove the plugin configuration and use the application standalone if needed. That's the other side. If you create a plugin for Neos, you create as well a Flow application that someone could use standalone without using Neos. And so the backend, we have modules in the backend which are also, again, just Flow applications. They also have controller actions. It's pretty much the same as a plugin, which also makes it easy to work with the system, because creating backend modules, frontend modules, frontend plugins is just the same. Similar to XBase, where you also create backend modules with controller actions, the same as plugins. So this is an example of a module. And one of the interesting parts about the modules is that they are self-contained. So we have this header here that we provide you as a module creator, but you are free to do in your module whatever you want. So we don't load lots of JavaScript or something. So if you want to use MooTools in your personal backend module because you know MooTools better than jQuery, fine. That's no problem with our backend. Every module is self-contained and works standalone basically, so you don't have to care a lot about our backend modules or our JavaScript. We provide a custom bootstrap design here for the modules, which you can use as well for your module, but you can also use whatever you want to create a totally different user experience if you think that makes sense. And also for the JavaScript side, just to give you a bit of explanation what we do in the JavaScript side of Neos, because a lot is happening, of course, in the front-end rendering and the front-end editing. So we have, as a base, we used jQuery, which is not even on the chart here, but that's the foundation of everything. We use Ember.js. It's a MVC framework for JavaScript based on jQuery. Very powerful system, we think. If you know, for example, Backbone, it's in that direction, but it enables you to do more. It's heavier than Backbone, but also more suited for bigger applications. It has a templating system that is called Handlebars. It's mustache templates, if someone used that. And basically they behave very similar to Fluid templates, because they also know something like variable output. They have view helpers, like a for view helper. So the ideas are very similar to Fluid, and the templates are plain HTML that can be used in the JavaScript. It's pretty cool and enables you to do real front-end work like a back-end development. So you don't need to do some hacky stuff in the front end and in the back end have the perfect code. You can have both, basically. We are also working on a REST API layer that works well with Ember.js. Currently we use a very custom implementation for our front end, but the goal is to have a REST interface that enables you to write an Ember.js application and directly connect to your domain models and your content in the way you like. Because we also see the need, for example, for mobile applications in the future. So a custom mobile application to edit content, a custom mobile application to edit news from your news system, and with a common REST API, this will be possible. Then we use Require.js. Everyone doing bigger stuff in JavaScript should check out Require.js. Because it's a dependency management tool for JavaScript. It resolves all those nasty loading order problems you might have. Basically, you load just one file, the Require.js file, and give it a configuration. And based on that, it defines the dependencies for each module you want to load and loads them from outside in. So you can be sure everything is loaded, and at the end it will run a custom function to do the bootstrapping of your application. But at that point, in this custom function, you can be sure everything is loaded and ready to use. Also, it allows encapsulation of JavaScript code, which is very important, especially for our inline editing. So all the libraries we use, like jQuery or Ember.js, are encapsulated in our code. They are in a closure, so our jQuery doesn't interfere with your jQuery on the website. Of course, our inline editing needs to load on your actual website. So if you use jQuery or any other JavaScript framework in the website, it might be possible that we use another version than you, and this could break your personal JavaScript code. And jQuery enables us to encapsulate our code just for our backend module. So there is no jQuery available outside of our backend code. So you can't use our jQuery in your website because it's not available for you. Then we have VIE. That's a product from the IKS project, a European project, to have interoperability between different content management systems. And VIE is a JavaScript library to read RDFA code, RDFA annotations in HTML code. And that's what we use to enable the inline editing. We render all the properties of your node structure as RDFA annotations in your website. And we read that with VIE, and then have the front-end application, our inline editing, work with this information. Then we have Hello. It's an inline editor. Actually, Aloha is also an inline editor. We use both side by side, and you can choose which one to use. I show you a little demo. This is Aloha, which I will show you. Aloha is much more powerful than Hello, but if you say, okay, my editors just need to have bold and italic, for example, you can go with Hello. It's much more lightweight. It's better for mobile devices, for example. So you could switch that if needed. And Crate.js together with VIE is this abstraction layer for other content management system interoperability. So other content management systems also use Crate.js and VIE, and you can exchange the editing layer with other content management systems. At least that's the idea. So far there's no other implementation like ours, so nothing to try on. Also, Crate.js is the way to abstract the editor from the actual content. So if in the future there's a better editor, a better inline editor that is compatible to Crate.js, and there is already a CK editor, I think, that is compatible, you can switch it. You can enable this custom editor for your editors. And this is the front-end rendering in its whole. So just to have some idea about our rendering stack and how everything works in Neos. Okay, that's about Neos technologies. I don't want to overload your brains, so I think it's enough detail for now. Now I will start to show you some code examples, show you how the demo website works, so you get an understanding how everything works together. Before we go over to the actual Flow application framework, so the basis of Neos. So I will mirror my display for this presentation. So I see the same as you. This is my working environment for Neos. And just as a reminder, let's have a look at the website. This is our demo website. Okay, wait. This is our demo website. Pretty simple design, a bit of content, a menu, some footer menu here, very basic. Let's look how that works out in Neos. So we have packages, sites, and there we have the site package, typo3 Neos demo, typo3 org. Everything related to our website is in this package. So if I copy this package to another Neos installation, I can have the exact same website. Let's first look into the resources. So we will follow the path I made in the presentation. We start with the sites XML. Is that big enough for the last rows? Or should I make it bigger? Okay, so this is the sites XML, and it's basically the node structure in a nested way. So this is the top level node, it's the home page, and in there you have the content collection, and then you have an HTML content element inside. So it's really the same nested structure I showed you in my presentation. All the content is in here. You see there is, this is the HTML for the HTML content element. This is the plugin. It defines the action to call. Text content element with the text information inside. So if I import this into my database, I have the exact same demo website with all the content in my database. And you see here the identifier. This is a globally unique identifier, UUID. And with that, we can identify this content element more or less worldwide, because there are so many unique identifiers in the namespace of this kind of identifiers that it's the probability to have a clash is like zero. I mean, it's much more improbable than winning in lotto or anything else. So you will never have the same identifier twice. And in that way, we can identify any content in Neos in any installation, basically, which is not what we want. You know, we don't have any tracking enabled or something. It's not about tracking you. It's about content synchronization between different systems. So if you have two Neos installations, we can easily synchronize the content between them, because we know exactly where each content element is. Even if you move one text element to a totally different page, we still know this is the same content element that is on the home page on your other installation. Yes?
Do you have some way to handle document files and media files and link with media files inside the content?
Yes, for the files we do base64 encoding in the file here. This is the file name of some PNG, and this is the actual content encoded base64. You could even pull it out of there if you need, but in this way it's just one file and everything is inside.
And metadata with this file are saved?
Yes, would be also in this XML. I mean, this file doesn't have any metadata, but yes, if you have metadata, we can include it.
And if this file is in multiple places in the website?
Yes, currently the export would create multiple base64, but in importing, we would only import it the first time and then reference it. So you will have any resource only once in the system. Actually, the resource system, but that is more for flows, so maybe let's talk about that later. It's pretty nice, but it's very technical, so let's do that in the next part. Okay, so this is our node structure. We can also have a quick look at the database, just to give you an impression of how that looks like, if I find my SQL Pro. So, Neos master and the domain model node. And there we go. This is our node structure. And there we see the path. If I sort by path, you easily see how the structure works out. We have the site root, admin page, content types page, main section, headline in the main section, and so on and so on. Every node has a node type, clearly defined. Maybe try to remember a few of the names. We will see them later in the configuration, so you see how this is all connected. For every node type, there has to be a node type configuration. And you see we have not only one globally unique identifier, but we have 3 globally unique identifiers here. The first one is the global unique identifier for exactly this one node. The second one is the reference to the workspace this node is in. But more interesting is this identifier here, because this identifier actually can be there multiple times, like here. It's the same identifier, because this is the same node you also see on the path, but in a different workspace. If you look at the workspace identifier is different. So with this identifier, we can track same nodes across different contexts, like different workspaces or different languages, for example. So we always know this is the same node, even if the path for one of the nodes is changed. You could move the content in English to another page than in French, for example. We still know this is the same content element in both languages and could tell you when it changes in one of the languages. Okay, so far to that, the node structure. As I said, if you have any questions regarding all this, yes?
How does it scale in terms of performance? Because UID cannot be indexed.
That's true, but it's still quite performant. It feels it's slower than UID, of course, but in practice, it's not really measurable in terms of speed. So it's really okay, and especially for the node repository. We have the idea for really high performance websites with lots and lots of nodes to implement a layer to use graph databases. There's a type of database, graph databases, that is especially made for node structures. They handle data in terms of nodes and relations between nodes, so it's exactly what we do in the node repository, and they are extremely fast at path recognition and path retrieval. So if you want the highest performance for Neos at some point, I guess such a graph database is the way to go. We are experimenting with this kind of databases currently and see how it works. And I guess at some point we will provide a layer to use them for the content repository. But also in SQL database, it's fine for now. We still need to do a really large test, like millions of records in the content repository. But so far it works out. Okay, let's look at the TypoScript. We have the root TypoScript, and here we have the iconic page equals page that you have in every kind of Typo 3 website. And you notice we did a few modifications in the syntax of TypoScript. So TypoScript is now, it has objects and properties. Objects are always upper camel case, like page. And properties like this header data, for example, is lower camel case. And that's always the case for all TypoScript objects we provide. Let's start maybe here, because that's the easier part. Okay, I have my page body. The page is basically separated in header and body to configure in different ways. And the page body has a template. This is basically your main website template with your layout. And you render the section named body, so you can have the full HTML page with a HTML tag and header tag to preview it in the browser. And you have a section inside for the body tag to just render the body tag. Okay, we define some parts for our website that we want to have dynamically in the website. And one of them is the main menu, so this menu over here. And this is all the TypoScript configuration used for this. We say, okay, we want to start at level 1 for our menu. We have a maximum of 2 levels, and this is the template we use. So let's quickly look at the template of the main menu. And there you see you get an array items you can use for each view helper to go over all your items, which is the menu items of the current level. You can wrap them as you need with the UL, LE. You have a link view helper for the nodes. You get all the information from the nodes, so you can output not only the title of the page, of course, but also any images related to the page, subtitle, whatever you have in your page as information. You can use it in this fluid template. You can, of course, use conditions on the information, like is this the last one? Because here you see the last one is on the right, so the last one gets a special class, and then we have the subnodes for the drop-down menu, which is here, for example. And if a node has subnodes, then we render the subnodes as well. So it's very flexible and still, if you know Fluid, pretty easy to modify. The default menu also has this kind of template, almost the same. So you can even use just menu equals menu, and it just renders a menu. Pretty basic one, but it's a menu. Then we have the submenu that is available on pages with subpages, like here, this one. Just the same, entry level is 2 in this case. Maximum level is again 2. Again, a custom template. Very similar to the first one, we don't have to look at this. And here comes the EEL expression. This is a breadcrumb. And a breadcrumb is not a menu anymore. Because a breadcrumb is not a menu. A breadcrumb is a breadcrumb, which is something different than a menu somehow. So what is a breadcrumb? It's basically the root line from the current page you're on up to the root. So what do? We have a template, and the template TypoScript object has basically just one option. It has a template path, and everything else that we define as option for template is a variable available inside the template. So items will be one of the variables in the template. In this template, we have a look later. And this is the EEL expression that creates the items. And what it does is, give me the current node, please. This is the page I'm on. And we have a collection here. This is telling EEL to use a collection and not only a single node. And to this collection, we want to add something, because we don't only want to have the current page, but we also want to have all parents of the current page. So we have a collection with the current page plus all parent pages. That is the root line. And we look at the breadcrumb menu, and what it does is basically just saying for each items as item, we check if it's hidden in menus, and if not, we just output a link. Pretty easy. But in that way, you can easily define here, okay, my breadcrumb doesn't have the current page in it, but just the parent pages. So we just remove this part. Let's see how it looks like here. This is the page features, and it displays features. Now it's the question if we have a subpage somewhere. Yeah, okay, here. That's how it looks like now. We are on subpage, so this is the last in our breadcrumb. I change it this way, so I just have the parents, and the result is that the current page is gone. So if you understand the concept about EEL with parents and children, filtering, you can do lots and lots of things and lots of requirements that clients have. Like, I want to have the title of the first level page always on the left above the side menu. You can do parents. And now I don't write Neos TypoScript every day, so parents get first. Could work. No? Yes, so that's the first level page, and at the same time you can not only have first, but I think it's something like this. No. But there is a way to access any given level. It could even be like this. I'm not sure. As I said, I don't know. I don't write it every day, but there is a way to do that, to say I want to have the second level, the third level, whatever level. And break.
Can we start the next conference at 15 plus 2?
Oh, okay. Whoa.
But maybe we could improvise a little workshop this afternoon.
Yes, yes, of course.
If you're still available for something.
So.
And maybe you could ask some question right now.
Yes.
And then we could do another workshop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So somehow my time is over, which I didn't think would be so fast, actually. But I didn't plan the break in between. Okay, so we need to wrap up. I think you got an expression about Neos, the technologies and how it works together. If you have any questions to that now, we can do that still. If you're interested in some more about the rendering here and the flow basic, the framework about it, we can have a little session this afternoon. Improvised session somehow, but that can be decided, I think.
Oui, donc l'idée ce serait peut-être pour ceux qui sont techniques, qui veulent aller plus loin sur l'installation et le templating et le développement avec Neos, d'organiser un petit atelier improvisé avec Christian, profiter qu'il soit là encore aujourd'hui, dans une salle d'atelier cet après-midi. Donc rapprochez-vous de Christian et puis vous verrez ça avec lui. Alors on va vous laisser 10 minutes pour poser des questions sur ce que vous avez vu et puis après on va enchaîner avec la conférence d'Olivier sur sa vision de la gestion de contenu.
Just a question, if you have the code, probably this site or another one, of a real Neos site to analyze the structure, the conventions, and the real examples on GitHub or somewhere?
The demo website is in the Typo3 Git repository, so you can look at that. Also, the conference websites, for example, from last year's conferences, the American conference and the...
And they use the latest conventions of Neos, because I could imagine it changed.
Yes, the conference websites are not updated because, of course, they are the past. But the demo website is always updated, and we try to also update the Flow and Neos website. So neos.typo3.org and flow.typo3.org both run on Neos. And we try to keep them in sync with master. It's not always exactly master, but...
and it's open source? It's open source?
Yes, open source, yes. You can install the Neos website on your local machine if you want.
On a un petit peu le temps là, profitez-en si vous avez des questions.
Your website seems to go quite fast and there is no cache. What's your computer configuration? Is it a big computer?
This is a MacBook 2 or 3 years old, so it's 2.2 gigahertz Intel Core i7.
Okay.
So it's a pretty good machine, I guess.
And even with, if you have a lot of people going on the website,
yes,
it goes still as fast?
Yes, it still is fast. Actually, I think the Neos website doesn't use Varnish currently, so it's just uncached Neos. I can tell you that we had a performance code sprint beginning of this year. It was mainly targeted at Flow, so it didn't do any caching, but just improving performance on a low level. And we, of course, also profiled Neos in that code sprint. And the Neos demo website uncached was something like 100 milliseconds per request. And we got it down to under 20 milliseconds after the code sprint, and still without any caching. So
PHP 5.4?
Yes, 5.4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the future, just to wrap that up, for the caching, Neos is currently really fully uncached. We want to include a TypeScript cache because TypeScript is parsed all the time right now. This is of course something that is slow. And apart from that, the basic idea for us is that you use Varnish or some other cache like Varnish, proxy cache. Because that is the way for future we see. But of course we understand that there are people that use applications like Neos on shared hosts with no Varnish support and they can't easily get Varnish. So our idea is to implement in PHP a simple implementation that behaves like Varnish. So also a proxy cache, but implemented in our framework. So if you don't have Varnish on your server, you can use this simple implementation as a replacement to have some kind of caching. But what we don't want to do is page caching as in Typo 3 CMS, because it's really complicated to clear the cache correctly, and the Varnish-like approach works much better because we support all the HTTP headers that are used for caching. Okay.
Ça, c'est un point très intéressant, hein, les proxy caches, et il y aura une conférence sur Varnish justement pendant cette T3Uni. Je ne sais pas s'il y en a qui ont déjà déployé des proxy caches comme Varnish. Oui, vous pouvez lever la main peut-être, ceux qui ont déjà déployé Varnish. Donc voilà, ça permet vraiment d'atteindre de tenir des pics de montée en charge impressionnants, et c'est vraiment dédié à cet effet. Donc on peut imaginer que le couple Neos-Varnish ce soit réellement très robuste et que ce soit capable de tenir une grosse charge. Donc c'est très prometteur effectivement pour les gros sites aussi à forte valeur ajoutée. Alors ami conférencier, Poppy est dans la salle.
Hello. Speaking about Varnish, does your PHP implementation of cache proxy on Neos support edge side include?
We don't have the implementation yet. We are working on it, not finished, but yes, we want to have edge side includes definitely, because we want to make use of that for Neos too. The idea is to enable rendering of basically single content elements in a different cached way. So you can say, okay, my plugin is cached for 2 seconds and the rest of the page for 2 days.
Christian, what we've seen so far is very exciting. We've seen awesome plans and awesome existing features, but there's apparently still a lot of work to do. Is it possible to explain how the French community could join you to help to develop such features? Because we have some of the best developers here in the room. Maybe it would be good to try to get in contact and get to know each other better and try to make them join the team.
Yes, actually I would be happy to have anybody join the team. Don't be shy about your skills or anything. We have already an international team, so it's not some German-speaking club. We have quite some Germans, but we also have Dutch people and Danish people and US people, and it's really mixed, so don't be afraid to join. We have lots of communication channels, and any way you want to contribute, be it testing it or writing documentation, coding PHP, JavaScript, creating demo websites, whatever you want to do, we would be very happy to have more support in that regard.
Could we have a list of stuff you'd like people to join, or features that are planned to be developed, like the ESI for Varnish, or like themes or something, so we could actually now maybe make a list of people that want to do something?
That's not that easy. I think I don't have Wi-Fi still, so I can't show you the website. But on the Neos website, there is a work package subpage, and on this page we have a list of work packages that is the like an explanation of the main features we are working on and that will be in future versions. Some of the work packages we are already working on, some not. So it would be cool if you could take over one of those. But if you're not sure about this or have some other ideas even, or just want to start with something small or bug fixing or something, just contact me. I'm the community contact for the team. I'm mostly available, not 24 hours, but 16 hours per day in the chat, available in the mailing list. You can mail to me, contact me via Twitter. It's really great to have all kinds of contributions because we are still a very small team, and it's always better to have more people working on it because, for example, currently we have lots of features that are more or less ready, but they are in the code review, and we need those code reviews to keep up the high quality we have in the code. But if no one has time to do the code reviews, the features won't make it to the final version. So it's a really difficult thing for us. At one time, we need to create new features to have all the features we want and get the features we have already implemented into the core by doing code reviews. So that's also something, if you understand the code, do a code review, try the patch on your local machine, would also be very helpful.
Okay, well, is there any other questions about Neos?
Just one question regarding the content repository.
I'm going to give you the microphone because it's streamed live on Ustream.
Hi, one question regarding the content repository. How do you handle custom sorting on any property? As currently the property are stored at a serialized array.
That's true. I don't think we do that currently. I think there's no API way to do it. I mean, the nodes have a sorting property that is a separated property that you can be sorted on a database level. So that's fast, of course. But for the properties, currently we don't have the need for it, so we didn't implement it. And I think the way to go for the future in terms of properties, searching properties, filtering properties, ordering properties, is to have something like a search for that, like a Lucene or a Solar or something. Because they are much faster at exactly this metadata parsing and sorting and filtering. So it would make sense to have this kind of engine to do this for nodes too.
Okay, so I need to work on the Elasticsearch and take
Yes, yes. Okay.
Des questions?
Just a question, some abstract. As I understood, the contents repository used to store the data, and I'm asking myself: is there a possibility that if we could change the storage, if we could use, for example, MongoDB or CouchDB to alternate the storage if we would like to make better clustering, better performance. Is it possible?
Yes, yes. Yeah, it's. I mean, that's again part of the flow part of the talk. So maybe we can do that later too. But Flow has DB abstraction layer, so it can use all kinds of SQL databases. But we also have a CouchDB implementation for the database level, and someone tried MongoDB too. It's not working great yet, but it can be done. Yes.
So the type of 3 content repository, it's not only one solution; it's a
no
default solution.
No, the idea is that the content repository is just an API. It's not. It's the layer between the database and the front end. It's not a database in itself. It's just a way to access data. Where you store you could even store it in a file if you want. the content repository just enables you to access it in this tree-like structure. You can store it in a MySQL database, in a SQL, in a Postgre, whatever you want. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, Christian.
I thank you for listening for that long time, and I want to finish by saying that it would be great if someone tries it, joins the team, gets in touch to contribute. We are, of course, most of the team are freelancers. We are, of course, also happy about opportunities to have trainings about Flow and Neos and projects with Flow and Neos. Obviously, that's the way for us to be able to work for free on this product, having good customer projects on the side. So that goes together. So thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Christian. I'm already planning teaching for my team. Me first. Okay, Olivier, ready?